Well, it's gotten to a point where I have to use almost the same similar title as Pine Power LI at this point. Because guess what, folks? New York One's not covering crime and fire news. Because guess what happened this morning? There was a major 4 alarm fire on the east side of Manhattan that New York One doesn't even have on their homepage. So as you can see here, they're talking about the pandemic. And I'll just state for the record that I kind of saw some rooms at Long Island Jewish today being converted into makeshift beds. So that's kind of very alarming. I'm very worried that there's going to be a winter shirts coming up. Well, there you go, right here. Let's see how big their article was. Yep, we're not even going to read this. We're not even going to read this, because it's not even a lengthy article. You know where we have to get a lengthy article from? This is where we're going to get a lengthy article from. Barely find it. Here we go. Let me just make sure you can read it. Ceiling collapse and 4 alarm fire at Yorkville restaurant leaves 4 firemen injured. So here we go. This is a 4 alarm fire that happened this morning. And thanks to Channel 7 for covering it as soon as they could. Because believe it or not, they really weren't covering it on the main news as much. But I will give Heather Aurora credit on Channel 7 this morning for coverage. She did a great job covering it. In fact, she even broke in during Good Morning America to briefly give traffic updates. So, trust me. That's Channel 7 doing a better job than New York One these days. Then here's the proof right here. Okay, here we go. The FDNY is investigating a 4 alarm blaze that broke out in a Yorkville restaurant earlier this morning. According to the fire department, a call regarding the fire at Dragon 1 at 1843 First Avenue at 5 a.m. this morning. Responding units forced their way into the restaurant where they encountered heavy smoke and heat conditions on the first floor of the building. The fire had broken out in the back of the restaurant, expanding to the front and up to the 3rd floor. A ceiling collapsed into firefighters on the 1st floor, injuring 4 FDNY members. 2 were taken to Weill Cornell Medical Center, and 2 of them were transported to St. Luke's Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Okay. Assistant Chief Michael Gala stated that the old building had many void spaces. The cause of the fire is under investigation by the fire marshal. Michael Gala said, "Our members got very lucky battling a tough fire. This could have been a whole lot worse after the collapse. The members did a tremendous job." So I'm just going to show you where this fire is, because I literally know what this address is. Show you it right here. Not too far from the 2nd Avenue subway. Yep. Told you. Told you. Last stop on the 2nd Avenue subway. Literally not too far from where the pedestrian walkway to Carl Schurz Park is. You cannot make this stuff up, folks. You just can't. You really cannot. Now let's just take a look and pull up the FireWire for a second. Because this was a FireWire. Here we go. This is it right here. Pull it up. Oh boy, look at that. The 4th alarm is burning again. So the roof did collapse. That's the main thing. 4th alarm burning again. So there you go. What was New York One's headline? What was New York One's headline? You may be, well, 4 alarm. Okay. Let's compare and collapse the AM New York headline, and it says right here, more specifics. So again, it's like New York One, they either don't want to cover the news or they just want to half-ass the story, which is ridiculous. And then this happened in Brooklyn. Let's read this one. Williamsburg fire displaces residents, injures none. So that's good news at least. Fire broke out in the top floor of a 3-story Williamsburg apartment building on Monday morning, dealing severe damage to the building's facade and displacing several residents. The New York City Fire Department responded to the scene at 8 Cook Street at about 11:20 a.m. Let's see. When did this happen? Yeah, it's happened yesterday. And the blaze quickly rose to a 2-alarm inferno. So let's read the FireWire in just a second. Required 25 units with 106 firefighters, which had the flames under control about noon yesterday. So that's some good news, at least. Okay, so I'm just going to see if we can find it from yesterday. What was the address again? 8 Cook Street. Okay. Let's see if we can find it. Yeah, here we go. This is it right here. So look how many units had to respond to this. Thankfully, nobody was reported injured from the fire, and the search of the building after the fire was extinguished was negative. Flames damaged the roof and second and third floors of the building, displacing resident Steve Cabrerde and his roommates. So far, we do not have an immediate cause of the fire. Oh, look at this. So much crime going on in Brooklyn. You know, I'll get to all these stories later on, because there's so much we got to get into. And look at this. There was another fire back on the 25th. 6 firefighters were injured while responding to a 4-alarm at 65 DeVoe Street. Ugh, man, I'm telling you. You know, everything happens for a reason. You know, let's go back to the 25th. 65 DeVoe Street. Yeah, look at that. Another fire in Brooklyn. Just looking for the 25th. See if we can find it. Why does my calendar keep falling down? I mean, I gotta change this for December anyway. I know. This is what happens when you go on the fly here. Wow! Look at that! Look at that! Look how big this fire was. My goodness. And, you know, New York one's just not gonna cover it. Bottom line. They're not. They're not gonna cover it. Okay, so let's see the crime news for Queens, because there's a lot going on here in Queens before we even go back to Brooklyn and everywhere else that just New York one seems to keep ignoring. Okay. Queens man found dead with body trauma inside his home office. This happened in Holliswood. Yep, I know exactly where this is. Detectives are investigating the death of a 71-year-old man who was found unconscious inside his home on Monday evening. Police say Rowan Eicher was found lying face down with trauma to his face and head on the second floor of his residence on Hillside Avenue off 196th Street in Holliswood right before 10 p.m. last night. Officers from the 103rd Precinct located the man while responding to a 911 call. According to published reports, Eicher's wife made the initial discovery and contacted police. Responding EMS units pronounced Eicher dead at the scene. His body was transferred to the medical examiner's office for an autopsy to determine the exact cause of death. There is an ongoing investigation. There were no signs of forced entry. So, very unfortunate story. Let's see where this was from. Oh, okay, so the Daily News had something. That's where they got their source from. Okay, well, in order to read the Daily News, we have to purchase an online subscription. And I don't want to do that. No, I don't see any point. You know, the other thing is, if I'm even considering it, I'm still debating what happens with everything. If I even think about moving to Delaware, I need that money to purchase the subscription for Dell.com, which is the main news source for Delaware. Okay, so anything else? Look at that. Look what's going on in Astoria. Look what's going on in Astoria. Again, New York one doesn't want to cover the crime wave going on in Astoria. Okay, so there we go. Let's read this. Police at several precincts across western Queens are on the lookout for a suspect who was hit allegedly robbed a number of banks in recent weeks. This first crime wave pattern began back on Friday, November 17th, when he entered the Alma Bank at 28-20 Ditmars Boulevard in Astoria and passed a note to the teller demanding cash. The teller complied and the suspect took off on foot with $337. No injuries reported. The same individual struck again just before 1 p.m. on Saturday, November 20th, and this is the one Laura Uhl covered, when he entered the Queens County Savings Bank at 51-13 108th Street in Corona, and again, passed a note demanding cash to the teller. The teller complied and the perp fled the location with nearly $800 in cash. The suspect struck again twice on Black Friday when he entered a Santander bank at 83-20 Roosevelt Avenue in Elmhurst just after 10:30 a.m. and passed a note to the teller demanding cash. The teller then handed over $2,121, and the suspect took off in a 2020 Toyota Corolla with temporary license plates. Later the same day, the suspect went to another bank at Middle Village, Citibank at 78-09 Metropolitan Avenue, just before 4:30 p.m., and passing a note demanding cash. This time, the teller refused to comply, and the suspect fled on foot empty-handed. Okay, so we do have a suspect description, so I'll show you the picture in a second. Crime Stoppers released a series of images of the suspect, who was described as a light-skinned man who was approximately 6 feet 1 inch tall, 150 pounds, with blue eyes, wearing dark-rimmed eyeglasses, and on one occasion was seen wearing a New York Jets jacket. Here we go. Yep. Here he is. I mean, there's a pretty good look of him. I mean, they might catch him. Only time will tell. Only time will tell if this guy ever gets caught. So let's just quickly take a look at Laura Uhl's Facebook page before we go back to the Queen's Courier. Yep, look at that. Look at this. Another robbery today in Queens. This just broke about 3 hours ago. Funny enough, the Queen's Courier writes an article and Laura Uhl gives more details. Look at that. Sterling National Bank on Metropolitan Avenue and 75th Street in Middle Village. They took off in a Toyota Corolla. You just cannot make this stuff up. This is what New York One is just refusing to cover. You know? And then there's supposed to be more stuff. Yeah, not that. We're not looking for that. Robberies in Floral Park. Let's read this one. Police reported 3 victims were robbed in Floral Park. The latest incident was reported on 257th Street and 82nd Avenue on November 18th at around 11 p.m. Then, on the 17th, the same day, the 2 victims were robbed around 7 p.m. A female victim was robbed on 258th Street and 80th Avenue. Around 6 p.m., another victim on 252nd Street and 82nd Avenue. That's kind of alarming, because that's right by PS 115. That's very disturbing. You know, you just cannot make this stuff up. You just cannot. Anyhow, let me just, yeah, look at that. More of the bank robberies. Oh, look at this. New York One didn't cover this either. This is what I was looking for. 9:30 on Sunday. Yes, Northern Boulevard and 202nd Street. One driver took off after multiple vehicle accident. And guess what, folks? This happened a block away from Aston Hall. And New York One didn't even cover it. Why aren't I surprised? Again, it's the same analogy. If a tree fell down in Forest Park, you think New York One would cover it? You honestly think they would? Not make this stuff up, man. You just cannot. And then there was a here we go. Vehicle flipped over on Interborough Parkway. Single vehicle flipped by Cypress Hill Street. There you go. Oh yeah, we covered that one. Okay. So let's go back to QNS.com, because there was a couple more articles we're going to read. And then we'll take a look at Brooklyn, and then we'll take a look at everything else going on. speaking of Astoria, back on topic here. A walk in the park was ruined for her mother and her son when a cyclist roped her last month. There we go. Let me just move this to the left. 41-year-old mother was strolling through Astoria Park with her 3-year-old son in the vicinity of 19th Street and 23rd Drive just after 9:15 a.m. on Saturday, October 23rd, when a man rode up behind them and the suspect allegedly reached between her legs, grabbed her crotch, and found her breast before fleeing into the park. The NYPD released a surveillance image of the assailant, who was described as approximately 18 years old with a light complexion and about 5 feet 4 inches tall with brown hair. The cyclist was wearing a gray BMX with red front tire, and he was wearing a black hooded jacket with a New Balance logo printed on the left arm, black jeans, black book bag, and a red and white Air Jordan sneakers. So there you go. There you go. More crime that gets ignored in Astoria just because we're New York 1, and, you know, we're just going to ignore it. We're just going to keep ignoring it. You gotta be kidding me. Astoria Park. What is going on with my borough? My goodness. What are they doing to my queens? And then there was one more we're going to read. And then I'm going to talk about how I almost got stabbed in Midtown the other day, because it's actually a true story. Police searching for a bald-headed man who allegedly assaulted an M-train rider in Ridgewood. Police from the 104th Precinct in Ridgewood and Transit District 33 are looking for a man who allegedly assaulted a woman in broad daylight aboard an M-train earlier this month. This incident occurred about 3:15 p.m. on Thursday, November 18th, when a bald-headed white man approached a 64-year-old woman as the M-train was approaching the Seneca Avenue subway station in Ridgewood. The suspect attempted to remove the woman's handbag, but she attempted to leave the subway car when it entered the station. She was pulled in back by the assailant, who then punched her in the head. The M-train pulled off at the Seneca Avenue station, and the suspect jumped out at Myrtle Avenue, Wyckoff Avenue station, and fled with the woman's handbag. EMS responded and then transported the victim to a local hospital with contusions on her head. The suspect was last seen wearing a dark t-shirt under a gray hoodie and a dark jacket. He was also wearing blue jeans and black and white sneakers. There you go. And mind you, we only have one more month left of Bill de Blasio. So, priority number one for Eric Adams is figuring out how to get these felons off the street. They don't belong on the street. So anyhow, we want to get to what I was talking about. So let's see. I'm just looking for it. Yesterday. Yep. I got a bad feeling it was one of the people who I saw at Grand Central yesterday. There was this one guy at Grand Central who was in front of 99 Cent Fresh yesterday, and he had this weird voice, and if I do the voice, it's just gonna hurt my throat, so I don't want to do it, but he had this weird voice, and, you know, literally following me in the Grand Central, and thank goodness he didn't walk downstairs with me to the dining concourse. But still, I mean, this could have been me. This could have been me. Okay? I could have literally been walking down 7th Avenue to go to Macy's that way. And, look. Could have been me. How am I lucky to avoid the crime? You know? How am I lucky to avoid it, you may be wondering? Maybe it's just survival of the fittest. I don't know. So, look at this. So many robberies happening in Brooklyn. It's crazy. So I don't want to get to that. I'm just going to make this video longer than it has to be. So let's read this last one, because this is very disturbing. That this literally has to happen during Hanukkah. Really? It's the third night of Hanukkah, and I have to read this. Let's read this. Trio sought for harassing Jewish youths in Brooklyn. Where in Brooklyn did this happen? Let's see, 254 Skillman Street. Let me see where this is. I might have an idea what this is, but I don't want to speculate until I have confirmed information. Yep, I think I know exactly where this is. I'll show you. Let's see. Oh boy, you gotta be kidding me. Not too far from the Navy Yard. Unbelievable. Let's read this. According to police on Saturday... Was this Saturday? Let me just confirm. It happened on Friday. Okay. According to police at 6 p.m. on Friday, November 26th, the three suspects approached a 12-year-old boy and a 3-year-old boy who were walking home in the vicinity of 254 Skillman Street. One of the suspects slapped the toddler in the face before fleeing the scene. The 12-year-old was not harmed. 2 days later, on the first night of Hanukkah, the suspect approached an 18-year-old girl and a 7-year-old girl who were walking to a store in the vicinity of 527 DeKalb Avenue. It's not too far, literally in the same vicinity. The suspect approached the 18-year-old from behind and grabbed her by the jacket and pulled her to the ground. The suspects then fled the scene. The 7-year-old was not injured. Just 5 minutes later, the suspects encountered a 9-year-old boy near 282 Skillman Street. The suspects approached the boy from behind and slapped him multiple times in the top of his head before fleeing the scene. In each instance, the victims were wearing traditional Jewish attire, and they were all refused medical attention. The Hate Crimes Task Force is investigating the incidents. The suspects are described as teenage girls wearing jeans and winter jackets. The NYPD released photos of the suspects taken from the vicinity. So let's see what they look like. They couldn't even mention they have a dark complexion. Everybody has to be politically correct. My goodness. Alright, so lastly, before we wrap up this video, let's see if the current Brooklyn Borough President had anything to say about it. Let's see. Let's see. Ha! And look at this. The current Brooklyn Borough President actually writes an editorial today. Oh, boy. Let's see. Ha! This is a joke. Eric Adams didn't even say anything about it. Unbelievable. Radio silence. Radio silence. Shame on you, Eric Adams. Shame on you. Right? I'm going to keep calling everybody out until something gets done. Alright? You know it's going to happen. You know, New York 1, right here. Eric Adams, right here. Everybody's going to get called out for not being involved. It's going to keep happening on this channel. It's going to keep happening. And one more thing. I know it's going to be unrelated. This kind of affects people in Queens too. Hi, Bruce Blakeman. Yeah. So, if your crime problem comes to New York City and the felons are coming from Long Island, you're going to get called out too. So, that's it. Thank you for watching.